Japan has one of the lowest cancer mortality rates on the entire planet. Not slightly lower, significantly lower. And scientists assumed genetics explained everything. Then researchers followed Japanese families who moved to the United States. Same bloodlines, same DNA, same ancestry passed through generations. Their cancer rates climbed to match Americans within 2 generations. The genes did not change. The habits did. That one fact dismantles the most comfortable excuse most people use to avoid changing anything. The single most powerful factor determining whether cancer grows inside your body is not written into your chromosomes. It lives inside your daily routine. And the most critical part of that routine happens before most people have looked at their phones, eaten breakfast, or even fully woken up. What 80 million Japanese adults do within the first 30 minutes of waking appears to directly interfere with how cancer cells grow and spread inside the human body. Researchers studying the longest-lived communities on Earth, in Okinawa and Nagano, kept arriving at the same conclusion after decades of fieldwork and observation. It was not meditation. It was not cold exposure therapy. It was not an expensive stack of supplements ordered online. It was a specific sequence of consumable habits done each morning that simultaneously activates 3 separate cancer defense systems inside the human body. Here is what should genuinely stop you. After 50, 3 biological systems your body has quietly relied on your entire life all begin weakening at the exact same time. Most people have absolutely no idea this is happening inside them every single day after they cross that age threshold. Most people also have no idea that the window immediately after waking is when those 3 systems are most responsive to either support or total suppression. What you consume in that window either arms your body's defenses for the entire day or quietly dismantles them before the day has even started. I am going to walk you through exactly what is happening inside your body after 50 that makes this morning window so biologically important and irreplaceable. I will show you the 3 cancer defense systems the traditional Japanese morning habit activates and the precise biological mechanism behind each one. I will explain the specific compound in Japanese green tea that laboratory research shows can cut off the blood supply feeding cancer cells entirely. I will break down how one fermented food shifts your gut bacteria toward the single species that determines whether your immune system can find and destroy cancer cells. I will give you the exact protocol, the amounts, the temperatures, the timing, the precise order that makes the difference between benefit and zero effect. And I will tell you the 4 things most people do every morning that silently undo every single benefit, even when they believe they are doing everything correctly. Stay through the entire video. The mistakes section is the one most people assume does not apply to them. It almost always does. That assumption is exactly the problem. Your body divides somewhere between 25 and 50 million cells every single second of every day. Every division is a copying event. Errors happen across billions of repetitions. Under normal conditions, your body runs 3 overlapping systems to catch those errors before they become something dangerous and irreversible inside your tissues. The first is your DNA repair enzyme system. These are molecular machines that scan newly copied genetic code, identify errors, and correct them before a damaged cell replicates further. They are extraordinarily efficient. They work without rest, and after 50, their speed and accuracy drop by 20 to 35%. That is a documented, measurable decline. The second system is immune surveillance. You have cells called natural killer cells, whose entire purpose is patrolling your tissues for abnormal cells that have developed uncorrectable errors. After 50, these cells become measurably less aggressive in how they hunt. They still function, but they miss things they would never have missed at 35. The third system is anti-angiogenesis control. This is the one almost nobody has heard of, and it may be the most critically important of the 3 systems. A microscopic cluster of abnormal cells exists in virtually every adult body at any given moment. It stays completely harmless as long as it cannot access a blood supply. Without blood vessels feeding it, a cancer cell cluster stays frozen, contained, no larger than the tip of a human hair. It cannot grow. It cannot spread anywhere. The moment it gains access to blood vessels, everything changes with terrifying speed. Researchers at Harvard Medical School documented what happens next with extraordinary precision. Once a tumor cluster successfully recruits its own blood supply, it can expand 16,000 times in as little as 14 days. That number is not a misprint. The signal cancer cells use to recruit that blood supply is called VEGF, vascular endothelial growth factor. It is a chemical distress call sent to recruit nearby blood vessels. One of the things the traditional Japanese morning ritual does is jam that signal at the molecular level before it can be answered by surrounding tissue. But before the ritual itself, you need to understand why morning specifically is the window that makes the greatest biological difference for your cancer defenses. Within the first 30 to 45 minutes of waking, your body produces what is called the cortisol awakening response. Most people associate cortisol only with stress and want less of it. But this particular morning cortisol surge is purposeful and beneficial. It primes natural killer cells for peak surveillance activity, activating your immune system's most aggressive daily patrol period. The early morning hours are biologically your highest yield window for cancer defense. What you introduce during this window has an outsized effect on how well defenses function all day. A high-sugar breakfast during this window triggers an insulin response that suppresses natural killer cell activity for 2 to 3 hours. That is your biological prime time gone. Dairy in your morning tea means the casein proteins bind directly to the most protective compounds in that tea, blocking their absorption almost entirely before reaching your bloodstream. Doing nothing at all, just coffee and phone scrolling, leaves all three of your weakening defense systems completely unsupported during the one window they would benefit most from support. The Japanese morning ritual, practiced across generations in the lowest cancer regions ever recorded on Earth, does the opposite. It feeds all three systems simultaneously and deliberately. It takes less than 20 minutes, it requires no specialist equipment, and it costs less per day than a single cup of coffee from any calf you can name. Inside matcha green tea and high-grade sencha is a compound called EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate. It has been studied in cancer research more than almost any other naturally occurring substance. A 2023 meta-analysis in the journal Cancer Epidemiology, Biomarkers, and Prevention pulled data from 29 independent studies covering over 1.1 million participants across multiple countries and populations. Regular green tea consumption was associated with a statistically significant reduction in several cancer types. The strongest associations appeared in digestive cancers, bladder cancer, and breast cancer specifically. The dose showing the clearest protective effect was 3 or more cups of properly prepared green tea consumed every single day, without exception or significant interruption. Researchers at Kyushu University followed over 40,000 adults for 11 years. Men drinking 5 or more daily cups had a 48% lower risk of advanced prostate cancer. A team at Ohio State's Comprehensive Cancer Center found EGCG selectively induced programmed cell death in cancer cells while leaving normal, healthy cells completely intact and undamaged. That selectivity is the finding that matters most. The compound appears to differentiate between healthy tissue and malignant tissue at the cellular level with remarkable biological precision. The mechanism is ECG blocking the VEGF signal. When cancer cells send their recruitment call for blood vessels, ECG interrupts that signal before surrounding tissue can respond to it. No blood supply. No expansion. The cluster stays frozen, visible to the immune system, and accessible for elimination before it ever becomes something requiring medical intervention. Inside your gut lives a bacterial species called Akkermansia mucinifila. The name sounds obscure. What it does is not obscure at all. It is foundational to your cancer defense. A landmark study at the Gustave Roussy Cancer Center in France identified Akkermansia mucinifila as the single most predictive biomarker of immune system effectiveness against cancer cells. Not one predictive marker among many. The most predictive. Patients with high Akkermansia populations responded to cancer immunotherapy dramatically better than those with low populations of this bacteria. A clinical trial at the University of California with 168 adults found specific compounds in pomegranate extract increased Akkermansia populations by 6 times within just 3 weeks. Not 6%, 6 times. Measured using precision DNA sequencing of stool microbiome samples, not subjective reporting or patient questionnaires. Actual measurable biological change in 3 weeks. What feeds Akkermansia mucinifila is fermented food, specifically traditionally fermented foods that have not been pasteurized, because pasteurization kills the live cultures doing the actual biological work. Natto, The fermented soybean preparation, central to traditional Japanese morning practice, is among the most potent Akkermansia-supporting foods identified in microbiome research across dozens of independent studies. It also contains nattokinase, an enzyme with cardiovascular benefits, and substantial vitamin K2 supporting denamethylation, a molecular process involved in gene expression regulation and cancer suppression. Your DNA repair enzymes do not work alone. They require specific raw materials to function at any meaningful level of efficiency, especially after 50, when demand on them increases. Among those materials are methyl donors involved in denamethylation and polyphenols that reduce what researchers call oxidative DNA adducts accumulating on damaged genetic code daily. Oxidative DNA adducts are measurable. They directly correlate with cancer risk. They can be tracked through a biomarker called 8-OHDG appearing in urine when damage accumulates faster than repair. A study at McMaster University tracked 8-OHDG in 84 adults over 55. Half followed a morning ritual with green tea and fermented foods. Half ate a standard Western breakfast. After 12 weeks, the green tea and fermented food group showed a 31% reduction in urinary 8-OHDG levels, measurably less DNA damage accumulating every single day. With food, pharmaceutical companies spend hundreds of millions attempting to achieve effect sizes like that with synthetic compounds. These participants achieved it with breakfast, in 12 weeks, without side effects or prescriptions. Now the exact protocol. Every element here has a specific biological reason. I will give you that reason so you understand what you are doing and why it matters. Wait 20 minutes after waking before consuming anything at all. Your cortisol awakening response begins the moment consciousness returns. Your natural killer cells are activating right now. Your immune system is running its morning initialization. Give it 20 minutes to complete without interference. No water, no coffee, no stress from phone notifications compounding on purposeful cortisol. Research from the University of Toronto's Sleep Physiology Division shows this window makes a measurable difference in morning immune cell readiness. It is short. It matters. Use it completely. Use ceremonial or culinary grade matcha. 1 full teaspoon, approximately 2 to 3 grams. Heat water to exactly 175 degrees Fahrenheit. Not boiling. This temperature is not a preference. Boiling water at 212 degrees destroys catechins through thermal degradation. At 175 degrees, they survive intact and fully bioavailable. A kitchen thermometer costs less than $5 and fixes this entirely. Whisk the matcha with a small amount of room temperature water first to create a smooth paste. Then add your 175-degree water. This ensures even distribution of every active compound. No dairy milk. The casein proteins in dairy bind directly to catechins in your digestive tract. Research found dairy reduced catechin absorption to approximately 20% of normal bioavailable levels. Plant-based milks, oat, almond, coconut, do not have this binding property. If you want your tea creamy, these are your only options that preserve the biological benefit you are drinking for. Add the juice of half a lemon. Vitamin C creates an acidic environment in your digestive tract that shields catechins from degradation as they move through toward absorption into your bloodstream. Studies measuring blood catechin concentrations found 6 times higher levels in participants who added lemon compared to those drinking plain tea with nothing added to protect the compounds. 6 times. For the cost of half a lemon, that is the single highest return, lowest cost intervention in this entire protocol. Treat it as non-negotiable rather than optional flavoring. If matcha is not accessible, high-grade loose-leaf sencha prepared at the same temperature is the next best option. 3 cups of sencha provides roughly equivalent egg CG to 1 cup of matcha. A 50-gram serving of natto, about 3 tablespoons, provides the therapeutic dose of fermented compounds identified in microbiome research. It contains nattokinase, K2, and prebiotic fiber, amplifying Akkermansia populations directly. If natto's smell and texture are genuinely not manageable, combine 8 ounces of unsweetened pomegranate juice with any traditionally fermented unpasteurized food. Kimchi, raw miso, or kefir all work here. The critical word is unpasteurized. Check every label. If it says pasteurized, the live cultures are dead, and the microbiome benefit you are looking for is largely or completely eliminated. This is the Japanese cultural principle of hara-hachi-bu. Eat until you are 80% full. Practiced consistently in Japan's lowest cancer, longest-lived regions across multiple generations without exception. Research from the National Institute on Aging confirms even modest caloric restriction activates autophagy, a cellular cleaning process where your cells break down and clear damaged internal components daily. The mild caloric gap from stopping at 80% fullness is sufficient to initiate this process. Your body reads mild restriction as a signal to begin serious internal housekeeping immediately. For breakfast composition supporting this protocol, prioritize 2 eggs for choline, a key methyl donor for DNA repair. Add half a cup of blueberries for anthocyanins, providing anti-angiogenic activity. Include 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed stirred into anything on your plate. Lignans modulate estrogen-sensitive cancer pathways and provide anti-angiogenic activity through mechanisms entirely separate from EGCG's pathway. Morning sunlight exposure within the first 2 hours of waking calibrates your circadian rhythm through specialized photoreceptors in your eyes. This is not primarily about vitamin D, though that matters independently. Circadian calibration directly governs the expression of clock genes, specifically BMAL1 and clock. These genes regulate cell division timing, DNA repair enzyme expression, and immune cell activity cycles throughout your day. Disrupted circadian rhythm is now classified by the World Health Organization as a probable carcinogen, not a risk factor to monitor, a probable carcinogen. 10 minutes of outdoor light fixes this entirely. If you live above 40 degrees latitude and winter mornings are dark, a 10,000 lux SAD lamp for 10 minutes achieves equivalent circadian entrainment. This directly affects DNA repair enzyme expression all day. A splash of milk in your green tea does not slightly reduce catechin absorption. It essentially eliminates it entirely. The casein forms irreversible complexes with catechins before they can be absorbed at all. Everything you are trying to achieve with the tea is lost the moment dairy enters your cup. This is not a minor adjustment. It is the difference between benefit and zero benefit. A morning blood sugar spike from cereal, a bagel, white toast, flavored yogurt, or fruit juice triggers an insulin response that suppresses natural killer cell activity for 2 to 3 hours. Your natural killer cells wake up primed. You eat a high-sugar breakfast. For the next 2 to 3 hours, they operate at reduced capacity during your most critical biological window of the day. Most people focus entirely on the tea because the EGCG research is most published. But the Akkermansia pathway may be equally important, particularly for anyone past 60 years of age. Skipping fermented food because it feels inconvenient leaves one entire cancer defense system completely unsupported every morning. A bottle of unsweetened pomegranate juice is the lowest barrier solution available to most people. Green tea extract capsules exist. EGCG supplements exist. Research consistently shows lower bioavailability, weaker synergistic interaction with co-occurring compounds, and in some cases measurable liver stress at high doses. The catechins in real green tea travel alongside L-theanine, quercetin, and dozens of other compounds that enhance each other's absorption and biological effects in ways a capsule cannot replicate. If your mornings are rushed and mindful matcha preparation is not realistic, prepare it the night before. Refrigerated matcha retains 85 to 90% of catechin content by the next morning. Make it the night before. A habit you actually follow at 85% efficacy beats a habit you quit in 3 weeks while attempting impossible perfection every single morning without fail. The 6-fold catechin absorption increase from half a lemon is the highest return intervention in this protocol. Treat it as non-negotiable, not flavoring, not optional, a pharmaceutical decision made every morning. Consistency at 70% is biologically superior to perfection at 30%. Akkermansia populations need consistent feeding across weeks and months to establish dominance in your gut microbiome effectively. Missing one day is not a biological disaster. Abandoning the entire habit because you missed one day is the actual disaster. That distinction matters more than any single morning's perfect execution. The visceral fat surrounding your abdominal organs secretes inflammatory compounds that directly suppress immune surveillance and promote angiogenesis, the same process EGCG is working every morning to block. Measure your waist at your navel, not your belt. Men above 40 inches. Women above 35 inches. Above those numbers, this protocol becomes more important, not less urgently necessary. Adding 20 to 30 minutes of walking after breakfast accelerates your results measurably when visceral fat is a factor in your individual health picture. Walking is not optional decoration at this point. After 50, your DNA repair enzymes are slower, your natural killer cells are less aggressive, your ability to suppress tumor angiogenesis has declined. These are documented biological facts, not speculation or opinion. But these systems are responsive. They are not permanently fixed at a declining trajectory. What you feed them, when you feed them, and how you feed them changes their actual function measurably. The morning window is when all three systems are most responsive to support. The cortisol awakening response has primed your natural killer cells and opened your highest yield biological window of the day. Your gut microbiome is ready to receive input that either builds or depletes Akkermansia populations across the weeks and months ahead. Your veg pathways are open to EGCG's jamming signal right now. Your DNA repair enzymes are at peak activity and will either have the methyl donors and polyphenols they need to reduce adduct accumulation, or they will operate without the raw materials required. The traditional Japanese morning ritual addresses all three systems simultaneously. Built empirically across centuries and populations with some of the lowest cancer rates ever recorded in human history anywhere. Now confirmed, mechanism by mechanism, through peer-reviewed research from institutions across multiple continents. Less than 20 minutes. Less expensive than a daily calf coffee. No specialist equipment required beyond a thermometer. What your body does with cancer risk over the next 10 years will be shaped more than anything else by decisions made before breakfast every single morning, starting tomorrow. The populations of Okinawa and Nagano understood this intuitively across generations of lived practice. The research now confirms exactly why their intuition was biologically correct all along. Your biology is not fixed. It is being actively shaped right now by what you do or do not do before most people have finished their first cup of coffee. You can start tomorrow morning. The protocol is in front of you. The mechanisms are clear. The decision is entirely yours to make, starting with the very next morning you wake up.